we're back in the studio here again with Cal Werner. Cal, you seem to be a regular guest here.
Yeah, I do. It's a good time.
Good to have you back.
Gotta love the free booze.
Well, that's one of the perks of being on the podcast.
Yeah.
So anybody out there wants to be on the podcast, you do get free booze.
Definitely. He will hook it up to help loosen your tongue and get the best stuff out of you. So if you want it, this is the place to be.
All right, so today we're going to talk about Klout. And for people that don't know, Klout is sort of a reporting tool on your Twitter activity. Sort of tells you, it tells you your clout, right? So it gives you a ranking between 1 and 100 of how effective your Twitter account is. Mm-hmm. And it tells you, how effective you are at reaching people, how many retweets you're likely to get, and basically overall how influential you are in the Twitter community.
Yeah, it's really a numerical metric of how successful you are on the Twitters.
Mm-hmm. So I see you've been gaining clout.
I have. I've been gaining a little bit of clout. I've been working hard on not just pushing out content in that sort of traditional way, but also trying to post tweets that will encourage other people to respond to help that engagement. And engagement's really one of the key aspects to Twitter. And then going ahead and responding to others and actually starting full-on conversations versus just, pushing out things and retweeting.
Mm-hmm. So you've been checking Klout, and obviously you've been active on Twitter. You're pretty active on Twitter. Mm-hmm. What have you found has increased your Klout score? Because some people are looking at it. I mean, I've seen tweets and people are saying that, hey, if you're going into social media, people are going to look at your Klout score.
Yeah,
and it better be good if you're going to get a job. It's pretty scary, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's an algorithm, and you got to know how things work, right?
It is an algorithm, and I've heard there are certain instances where it's been used as a metric to help make job decisions. Hopefully, that's restricted more to the social media world. If your Twitter, if your clout among Twitter really doesn't directly affect how your job goes, I think it would be a very poor thing to measure people by. For example, an accountant shouldn't be measured by their clout in most cases.
Obviously, right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But things that I have seen work are some of the things I just talked about. Posting things that inherently encourage engagement, questions that people would be compelled to answer, and once again, replying to certain things that other people say to help start those conversations.
Yeah, because I've found. I used to check Klout once in a while, and what I found is, when I tweet more, my Klout score goes up. I tweet less, it goes down. Is there more to it than that, or am I missing something?
There must be more to it than that. And I can say from not only my experience, but that of a couple of my coworkers, they're obviously still figuring out the entire system. I remember one point in particular where we all came into work one day and we all checked our Klout scores because we're web marketing nerds like that.
Right.
And everybody had taken a giant dive for no apparent reason, done absolutely nothing different, but everybody's Klout scores were cut in half.
Right.
Fortunately, they obviously rectified whatever they were doing with that algorithm change because they generally climbed back up. But some of it's a little bit of a mystery. The reason I mention engagement specifically is because I have found that I've had periods where I've done crazy amounts of tweeting and not gotten a lot of responses or involvement and actually watched my Klout score go down. Conversely, I've actually also seen periods where I tweeted less but had more engagement per tweet, let's say. Where my Klout score's gone up. So
this Klout algorithm is pretty moody. It's
I think they're still working out some of the kinks, but either the algorithm is really strange and mysterious in all its many ways, or they're beginning to take into account your level of engagement and not simply your volume of tweets, because you could tweet 200 times a day, and if nobody retweets you or follows you, that's not necessarily someone that should have clout.
Right. And the thing I find a little odd is that you can import like your LinkedIn and connect your, you can connect your Facebook.
Right.
Does that have any effect on the score?
It does. In fact, some of my coworkers continue to re-engage me, let's say, to try to convince me to go ahead and add my Facebook on there. And while I know it's not going to actually publicize my Facebook, the truth of it is I don't use Facebook for business. I don't want to use it for business. I've compartmentalized it for personal interactions.
Right. Although you can, and I wrote a blog post about this. About using it for business, because I did have a coworker who would use Facebook for business, and now they do have some new tools on Facebook, specifically the use Facebook use page as a personal account. In other words, you could use your business page on Facebook just like you would your personal account. So you can comment on other pages, and it's basically, you represent your business, whereas before it was just a lot harder to do something like that.
Right.
And business pages now can like other pages. You can write comments, so you really can separate it. It does take a little bit of work, but you can do it. But now with Google Plus coming on board,
right,
and Google I think is really going to stick it to Facebook, and obviously I think Google has a lot more business sense. Than Facebook, so I think and plus with Google you have the Google Places, which is great. I mean, if you have a business, you set up a Google Places page, it's going to rank really high in the rankings. And you can put your business hours, people can post photos, and it ties in with like city search, and it's a really great web page that integrates with the Google services. So if anybody out there has a business, I highly recommend that you set up a Google Places page for your business.
And it definitely helps out. Obviously, I'm not an SEO expert, but I know it helps out when you're searching for things locally. It knows where you are. So if I search web developers and I'm in Houston, it's more likely to show me Houston web developers if they have a Places page, perhaps sooner than people who are farther away.
So. Your experience with Klout.
Well, speaking to the LinkedIn aspect real quick, just to get back to that before we move on, I definitely saw a bump when I put my LinkedIn, went ahead and linked that on there. Certainly that's something I'm comfortable with. It's also something I use for business. And once again, the algorithm is to their own, but it can help measure things like your network, and there's the entire sort of status and commenting feature available within LinkedIn itself. So I definitely saw that to be a useful addition.
Now you say people at work, does your business actually use Klout at your company?
We don't use it as an active metric right now, at least as far as I know. I'd have to ask my social media guy to be certain. What I do know is that Klout is becoming a more and more often used tool because it is such a one number concrete kind of metric you can look at. There are a whole host of tools that you can use even within your browser that will actually put a Klout score number next to every single Twitter person you look at. If you go look at a Twitter stream, you can have a browser plugin that will tell you the Klout of every single person you look at on there.
Wow.
Yeah. And it can even track that through some of the other things that can import your Twitter feed. I don't know what all those are exactly, but there are some of them where it will actually carry that through, even though you're not looking directly at Twitter, to see that in other places.
Wow. It's pretty amazing. Imagine in real life if people just had like a Klout score hovering above their head, and you could know who was
right. It's like going to a networking meeting and have everybody have how important they are as a number hovering above their head. It's the exact digital equivalent of that.
Wow. So it's like walking into a restaurant with a full-on suit or tuxedo, I suppose, in some regards.
Yeah, definitely.
And everyone else is just in shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah, depending on who you're talking about.
And Klout, they have some kind of fun names for people who like have a low score, right? They're like Explorer and
they have, one of the other fun things about Klout is that they, based on the way you use Twitter, it can put you into different categories that sort of describes your overall behavior. For example, someone who looks around more and doesn't engage as much, maybe doesn't tweet as much, might be an explorer. Somebody who doesn't tweet a lot on their own but retweets a lot might be a feeder. and so on and so forth to, influencer, and niche expert, and whatever the other ones that they have.
I like the way they phrased one of the top ones. It was something like, you're probably a celebrity in real life. So like if your score gets high enough, it basically assumes you're probably a celebrity. Right.
It's hard to reach certain heights without being a genuine celebrity.
Right. I would think if you're doing a little podcast, it might be hard to get up there.
Right. You can make some waves, and you can make yourself a little bit of headway, but certainly to get on towards those scores, much more towards 100, you need genuine celebrity to get there. And that kind of makes sense, because we're talking about clout. We're talking about how influential you are. Real celebrities are real influential.
That's true. Yeah, was it Kim Kardashian has like a gazillion followers, and she gets I heard something about like $10,000 a tweet.
Oh wow!
One little tweet. I mean, a tweet lasts how long? About a minute. About a minute. It's like $10,000 in like a minute.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah,
I would like some of that.
Set me up with that gig.
But
right. So what's the name of this browser plugin? You said there's a browser plugin. Do you know offhand the name of this?
I would have to look it up, or ask one of my folks. In fact, maybe I can get a list of some of the types of plugins you can use to look at Klout around on the internet, and maybe we can post them somehow.
Okay. What browser was it that you were using it on?
The one that I've seen used most commonly was Chrome that particular plugin. Okay. Either Chrome or Firefox. Those seem to be the ones that have the most and the best plugins for those sorts of things. And
a shortcut for people that actually want to check out a Klout score for somebody, it's just klout.com/ and then their Twitter handle.
Oh.
Right? So for you, I think it's klout.com/Hal Werner. And for me, I believe it's klout.com/Ken Mariko. So they make it really easy for you to check the Klout of somebody. But I wouldn't totally put 100% faith in the Klout score, because it really is sort of,
it's really in its infancy right now, and they're doing a lot of interesting things and a lot of cool things, but you definitely can't look at it as sort of the end-all be-all Bible of what's important and who's important.
Right. Yeah, the thing I would look at, though, is it does say, how likely it is that someone's tweets will be retweeted, which is kind of nice. I mean, that does give you some kind of gauge as to how influential someone might be. But the overall score, I don't know. I'm not completely sold on it, but I think you're a lot higher than where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And well, I'm not going to be humble here and say that I should be higher, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think one of the other interesting features too is if you start digging down into it, you can actually see who you influence and who is influential to you, and you can see what topics that you and others are influential about. So I find that really fascinating. You can see by the way they measure your retweets and people replying to you, if you're influential about the topics you want to be influential about. Right now, one of the things I'm influential about is copywriting, and I hope to keep that up, because that's what I do. At one point, I was also influential about bacon.
Wow.
Which is awesome. I think.
I think I could dominate the flame juggling topic. I think I could take that over on the Klout.
Fire juggler?
Fire juggler.
We'll see if we can do that.
I want to get there.
I'll tell everybody to retweet it, see if we can game it.
Let me set that up.
But yeah, for a little while I was influential about bacon, and while awesome, that did eventually wear off, because whatever topic I was talking about sort of ended.
You got knocked out by the next Bacon King.
It was probably the Denny's Baconalia happening. They probably bumped me for that.
You think the corporate Denny's account maybe knocked you out?
I think they might have a few more followers than I do.
Right.
And they definitely. I mean, I was only occasionally about bacon. I'm sure they were all about bacon for that promotion.
Right. Wow, this is great. Well, how can people reach you?
Well, if you want to reach me on the Twitters to talk about all this Klout stuff we've been going after, you can find me at Hal Werner. As always, that's HALWERNER. They can also find me on my website, www.halwerner.com. LinkedIn.com/Hal Werner, I think, is how they do those.
Yep.
And or you can just Google Hal Werner and pick whichever one of my sites you want to go to.
Excellent. Well, thanks for stopping by the studio, Hal.
Anytime.